Hey, this is Driver 88. So the new M4CS has just dropped and it's going to be an absolute monster with 542 horsepower, 650 Newton meters worth of torque, 0 to 100 in probably 3 seconds flat despite the claims, and a 10-second quarter mile. It's also achieved a 7 minutes 21.99 full Nordschleife ring time, which is quite incredible. It is going to come, however, with an enormous price. Here in Australia, there will be just 50 of them, but they'll start at $256,000 before all the on-roads taxes and options. So that will probably get to a price of near $300,000, which made me think, is there something else I've been missing? Something I haven't driven before at Dutton ONE garage. So if 280,000 Australian dollars seems like a lot for a BMW few, you may want to try one of these. I'm sitting in an F80 M4CS and it's the first time I've ever driven one. Many a BMW fan has told me that this car is fantastic to drive and is a great mix of road and track focus. Essentially, this is a car that was made, only 3,000 of them from what I've read, and I'm not exactly sure how many came to Australia. I believe something like only 30 have come to our shores down under. And back in the day, it was sitting at $210,000, I believe, before options. So it was very expensive at the time. These examples now, this one that I'm currently sitting in, only has 12,000 kilometers, and you're looking at 135 grand Australian before on roads, which looks very reasonable compared to an almost $300,000 new car. We have 600 Newton meters, we've got 460 PS, 0 to 100 turns up in 3.9, and you can get, with warm cup 2s on the rear, potentially a high 11-second pass in quarter mile, but that's really not what this car is about. This car is all about how it makes you feel, having the occasional track day, giving you a brilliant driving experience, and we're going to see if it delivers in spades today. I really have high hopes and expectations. Now, what do you guys think about the looks? I think this is going to go down as one of the best looking BMWs in modern history. This is aged incredibly well aesthetically from the exterior, in my opinion. Just the great stance, the wheels, this satin paint. I think it's a fantastic looking thing. We've got, of course, the LEDs in the rear, which is add to the experience. The engine bay is quite beautiful looking as well. I mean, compared to the G80 and even the stock F80 M3 and M4, this is a great looking car, and I can tell why it's really found its way into many BMW fans' hearts. So welcome to the very sparse interior of the M4CS. People have kind of mixed reviews about this interior. I was never a big fan of the F80 series anyway, probably because of some of these kind of, you know, funky buttons that don't really give much purpose, to be honest. But the rest of this car, I'm a big fan of. It's focused, it's purposeful. We've got door loops, we've got minimalist interior with Alcantara and leather everything. I really like it. These seats, which are really the most important part, work well for me. They're not too hard, they still give you good support, but they've got a decent amount of side bolstering for when you're taking this car on the occasional track day. The CS there is something that stands out for me. I'm a fan of this steering wheel. It feels really purposeful. It's not too fat compared to other M cars I've driven. And I like, of course, the analog dials. A little bit of a hark back to the past these days. But yeah, this interior, very, very cool, focused, besides little things like this plasticky sex toy looking gear stick here, but apart from that, I love it. we have 285s on the rear, and I can tell you that this car is quite twitchy. You can spin them up very easily, not just because they're Cup 2s, but we have 600 Newton meters of torque, which comes on quite quickly. But what I like is the rawness of this car. The steering is too heavy for my liking, but I have a feeling that most people that want this sort of experience will be happy with the weighting of the steering. Yeah, it's quite a handful when you want it to be. Now, we don't have any artificial sounds coming through the cabin, but I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the sound that's coming through the cabin. It's just not that inspiring, really. Now, I don't dislike straight sixes, but I'm not sure. I don't feel the sound is adding to the driving dynamics of the car. It's not taking away from the fact that it's very fun to drive, but I don't know, it sounds a bit like a sewing machine, to be honest. I think that's a bit harsh, but it's just not a great sounding engine. So the brakes I'm taking a little bit to get used to, and I love the liveliness of this chassis, and I think you're going to buy this car purely for how the chassis feels in spirited drives on your Sunday morning. That's what I think you buy this car for. This isn't just going to be on a freeway, you know, you're going to be wanting to push this thing on your favorite country road, your flat one. Once everything is up and warm, the DCT and the tires, it just wants to go, this car. It wants to deliver a nice experience for you. If only I wasn't stuck behind this ute right now. Oh, it's got a lovely progression of power. This twin turbo 6, I mean, such a great engine that has only been more improved and become obviously more powerful and robust in the S58, which comes after this car. I'm stuck behind now a postie on a little electric miniature cart thing. How unfortunate. Keep in mind also that even the new M4 competition, with all its extra power and extra weight, which is about 80 kilos heavier, by the way, the new M4CS will be than this car. While they are so capable and have so much grip, just driving this thing for a little while today, it makes you feel like you're in a sports car. And that is so important, I think, when you can't always be going on the track, but just to get that feeling of driving a sports car, even slowly, is so important, that too many brands these days are losing as they get faster and faster and look at 0 to 100 times. Just getting in the car should feel like you're ready to do some spirited driving. And that is really coming through in every corner here. Changes direction really nicely. The suspension, I've put it in Sport. I think the Sport Plus is too much for our crappy Australian roads, most of them. Otherwise I'll be bouncing around, and then that mixed with the DCT, sometimes jerkiness, is not a good combination. But yeah, I'm quickly beginning to like this car. It's also a fair bit cheaper than an M4 xDrive, so that is sitting at now $200,000 as a retail price. This thing obviously a fair bit less than that, and most of these cars don't have a lot of kilometers on them. I guess because they're limited, and that's just been the way. Given that they're a bit of a limited track focused car, most examples I've seen have fairly low kilometers. I can tell you about how this car is pretty heavily sprung and the steering is quite heavy and it doesn't take bumps that well. But I don't think you're going to really be buying this car for comfort. And I'm not too concerned by denoting it for not being able to be a great daily driver, because I would not want to daily drive this. It doesn't have great storage, even though the boot is big enough. It does have a cup holder, which is nice, but I personally wouldn't want to drive this thing daily. I would kind of want to respect the fact that I own it by taking it for proper drives every single time I get behind the wheel. And this car is definitely worth using properly. So the DCT in this car, I'm sort of in two minds about. In one way, it makes it a little bit more exciting and more aggressive to shunt through the gears than the ZF examples in the newer cars. And in some respects, it's a little bit of a hindrance because it's not as refined as some of the other examples in Porsches, etc. In modern years. But I'm sure at much higher speeds on the track, I think it proves to be far more capable than when you're doing lower speed stuff. Yeah, but again, it's just nice to be in something which is fast, but also you have to be careful with. You're not just going to be putting your foot down and expecting it to save you every time. This is a car that's going to light them up very easily, and it'll bite you if you're not careful. And I really don't mind that. I can't do it right now. I can't say I haven't been doing it earlier today, but this car will happily put you into the side of a curb or give you a Mustang experience if you're not careful. So BMW claimed that it could run the Nordschleife at 7 minutes and 35 seconds, which is something like 12 seconds slower than the new M4CS. But ultimately, I think with rear-wheel drive and a much more livelier chassis, we've got, of course, a 7-speed DCT instead of the 8-speed ZF in the new car. Just a completely different experience than a G80, and something that I think a lot of people may want to buy and then stick in their garage and enjoy for a Sunday drive or the occasional track day. I've been really quite impressed with this car, honestly. Just the power delivery. I like the way the 7-speed DCT just adds to the experience. The steering feel, it's a lot of things you can't just get, I think, in an AMG or Audi. It's something that's unique to itself, and many a BMW fan have lamented that. But yeah, honestly, I think you're winning either way with either car, but the way that the market is going these days, I'm starting to look for more deals, and I think this is the sort of thing, if you're a person who loves a proper driving experience, to pick up for yourself. So this is Driver 88. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.